Alright. Let's go home with a 5-minute Friday. Alright, let's get my dad glasses on because it's bright. Let's get out of here. So, need to stop and get gas, which kind of hurts. I don't know how it is in your part of the country or part of the world, but man, gas prices have gone way up. But it's a different topic, different issue. When we get done with putting gas in the car, I was thinking, the question that I get quite often is, what is it like welding in the aerospace industry? And I thought, well, this might be a good 5-minute Friday question and talk about the good, bad, and ugly about it. And yeah, so after we get some gas, we'll put 5 minutes on the clock and we'll go. See if we can actually keep it within 5 minutes. All right, got gas. There we go. I think that's better. All right, now that we're back out on the road and going home, let's put 5 minutes on the clock and talk about the good, bad, and ugly of working in the aerospace industry from my point of view at the places that I've personally worked. And one thing I can say about that is I've heard much different experiences from other people, much better experiences from other people, and much worse experiences from other people. So, like I said, this is my personal experience. The first job that I had in the aerospace industry, we did both commercial and aerospace work, and I did mostly commercial work there. I did very, very little aerospace because I wasn't certified in a lot of stuff. So I got to see a lot of the aerospace that was being done there. There was a lot of fighter jet components and different things for Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and we did a lot of parts for Apache helicopters, and it was really cool to see all that stuff. It was really neat to see how the fixturing worked and all the different things, and also just, you know, the quality level that it required. So that definitely bumped my quality level way up, because it was like, wow, these welders are serious and they can really weld. After that, I went to another sheet metal shop, and we did some aerospace work there, and that was also just brackets and different things along those lines. Actual first full-on aerospace company that I worked for was here in Ohio, and that was the only thing they did, and we made parts for Rolls-Royce, and it was an okay place to work. I don't want to say it was bad. It was managed very poorly. Everything was not, it was always utilization and efficiencies. They didn't care really about quality. They didn't care about anything. It was mostly quantity and getting it out the door. And being that it was for aerospace parts, that rubbed me wrong always, because it just didn't seem right that, you know, you're doing these parts, and granted, what we were doing was just basically tacking parts together, and, you know, the longest weld that you did on the majority of the parts was like 1/2 of an inch. So you didn't really weld much, and the parts were oven brazed together. So you would tack the parts up and then hand them off to this other department, and they would take this liquid brazing paste and run it through all the joints, and then they would load it up into an oven, and it would heat the part up to the point that that paste would melt and braise everything all at one time. So it was a really neat process, but the actual welding part of it was kind of when I left there, I went into, that was OEM, which is new make parts, and I left there to go to MRO shop, which is overhaul and repair. So everything we did at the second shop was land and marine engine parts for electric generation, and also aircraft engine parts. It didn't matter if it was land or marine or aircraft, everything got treated the same. I did like that when I first started there, I did like that everything was a little bit, I don't want to say a little more laid back, but it was take your time, do it right. You know, if it takes you a little bit longer, it's not a big deal as long as it's done right in the end. And to me, that's important. And that's what I've always heard from other people that worked in different shops, like out in Phoenix with some of my friends out there. I don't know what shops they work for, what the names of the places, but they always said, you know, it's super, super laid back. You know, just come in, you know, you get X amount of time, which is more than enough time to do these parts, but they have to be done right the first time, every time. So they give you enough time to do it. And that has been a lot of what my experiences was with talking to people in aerospace, but my personal experience has always ended up being efficiency and utilization. And I understand that that's really important in the industry, and to run a proper business, you gotta be able to charge the proper amount for the job you're doing. But when it comes to repairing an aircraft engine part, you don't know what you're going to get. You know, sometimes they open those crates up and that one part might have one crack in it, and it takes 15 minutes to fix. Not a big deal. And then you'll open up another crate and it'll come to your area down the road, and then that same part off of a different engine will have 150 cracks in it, and it'll take you days to fix. And all they care about was, you know, well, how come it took you 15 minutes last time to fix this part, and this time it took you, 2.5 days? What were you doing? Well, there was a lot of cracks in it. It took longer to fix, and they just don't care. But to me, that's poor management. And I'll be 100% honest and tell you, in one of my first review that I had, I was told that I need to lower my quality and up my production rates. And I flat out told my supervisor, I don't make handrails, I fix aircraft engine parts. I'm not going to lower my quality, ever. I wasn't too happy with that, but it's true. I'm not going to do that. And that's part of the ugly part of, I would say the good part is you get to work on some really cool stuff. You get to work on some really exotic materials that you've never heard of. You get to see different things where it's just like, wow, who thought of this? This is insane, these parts, and how did they machine them? And it's really cool stuff. The bad part is you're working on some really expensive materials. Some of the parts you're working on, it costs $1 million to make this, and you can't scrap that part. And you can easily scrap it by, adding the wrong filler wire into it, or just overheating the part, or whatever, just being dumb. So there's a lot of stress when it comes to that. And the ugly part of it generally is poor management. And it all depends on where you're working or what type of a job you get into, but in my experience, it has always gone down to poor management being the part that makes my experience in aerospace difficult. And I don't like being pushed to do things that I don't agree with, especially on an aircraft part, where, you know, if it's got 150 cracks and it needs to be repaired, it's going to take however long it takes. And that's the fact. Bosses don't like to hear that, but, you know, it is what it is. Do I like working in, or did I like working in the aerospace industry? Yes, I did, because, like I said, you got challenged every day on how are you going to do this. Now, I haven't worked in a new make facility, an OEM facility, where you actually got to weld a whole bunch. I really wish I could. I think that would be a lot of fun. And if you have an opportunity to apply for a position somewhere that is a new make facility where you're doing full beads on everything, like full diameter runs, and learning how to do the semi-automatic dabber welders and different things that they have available in that industry, I think it would take anybody's welding capabilities and you would just skyrocket with it. It is a very challenging industry. It's a very fun industry if it's managed properly. So that's kind of out of your hands when it comes to that, but I guess that would be a good place to stop on this, where, like I said, the good, bad, and ugly. The good is you get to work on cool stuff. The bad is you can screw up some really cool stuff. And the ugly is dealing with poor managers. So I know I went over my 5 minutes. I set my timer on my watch, and that went off a little while ago. But hopefully you guys like this. And if you have any questions or comments or questions you want to hear me answer or whatever, just let me know, and I will get to them. So, thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next Friday for the next 5 Minute Friday.